I'm George, founder and CEO of Global Key Solutions. We track and monitor global regulatory agency data. We got introduced through PharmStars, so that was both a venture accelerator. They gave us an investment, did a cohort with them. That was a year ago. That's how we met. And then, yeah, that's kind of how we met. I mean, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm Steve Prewitt. Hello, Internet. I'm currently leading the applied AI practice at Genpact. My last startup, Exponential Data, was acquired by Genpact last June. And I'm a tech all-rounder currently in AI. So I wrote code for a couple of years, worked at Pfizer for a couple of years, CRO a couple of years. Then a provider for a couple of years, and then I was a chief analytics officer of Healthfirst here in New York City, and then I went to the Roivant biotech incubator before they went public, and where I led their digital innovation and AI function, and that gave me the chance to go to a services startup, which was very fortunate. It was a rocket ship, and we exited 2 years after the firm's founding. And so I've been at Genpact since last June, and in that capacity, I lead our Anthropic partnership and try and help our clients understand the kind of massive implication that AI is going to have on their businesses, including a lot of work with pharma clients, which I suspect we'll talk about today.
Yeah, so we'll go into pharma, we'll go into AI. We can start, I guess I'll give you the option in two ways. So my first two questions that come to mind are, most of your career in pharma and life sciences, and just in tech in general, was in New York, right?
Yeah, it's mostly been in New York. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
And I wrote code for Sprint, which is now Nextel, their headquarters in Kansas City. And then I went to business school and came to New York. And so, I worked at Pfizer in Midtown, and then I ended up traveling a lot over the years, but Charles River Labs is in Boston, for instance.
Yeah.
But mostly all tech, mostly all New York.
Was there a preference there, or it just kind of landed in your lap after business school, or how did you?
It's the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
I think I get my card after 23 years in the city, and there's no place I'd rather be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in my, early. I did undergrad here, but other than that, not from New York as well. So, once you're in it, though, I love it, and so I wanted to ask because it's great. It's good to be based here, and then travel out.
Also, if you're young in the city, like there's a bunch of other people that are coming here chasing something.
Yeah.
And so there's a great community there, even just outside of work.
The mission becomes clear. Yeah. And then that brings me to the other aspect, which was there a way you eased in? You went out of business school, you got into life sciences, you sort of worked, particularly like at Pfizer. You mentioned you did preclinical or early stage things. Like, how did you phase into that?
I guess every time I change companies, I add something. I bend my career in a certain direction, and so I went from software development to life sciences. Doesn't sound like a straight shot, but it was software development management. So software plus MBA equals software management. And the industry switch was the kind of big thing. And I worked in the commercial division at Pfizer, actually, and learned all about that. But the tech stuff that I learned was super applicable. So it was just the industry angle that I had to add. And then I left from there to go to a CRO, which again, it was like I was doing IT portfolio management for a CRO, so it's different side of the drug development spectrum, but still in the same, just like instead of one IT project, a lot of IT projects, right?
Okay.
And then that portfolio management thing became an IT strategy thing. This is in the Wayback Machine, man. This is like
Wayback Machine.
Yeah, you were in elementary school, um, and then I had to get back to New York. I mean, that job was in Boston, and my wife was in grad school here in New York, and so I did my obligatory stint in management consulting, and I did tech delivery for a British consulting firm, but their offices in New York are in the Chrysler Building,
Yeah.
um, and then I did a larger like transformation job, like tech transformation at the Visitor Service in New York, which is a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I kind of felt like traditional technology organizations were changing fundamentally because of access to data and the things that you could tell about your business with that data. And so I wanted to go more into the analytics space. And I went to Healthfirst. I ran their clinical analytics group for a while.
Well, I was gonna ask, it was visitor nursing, right, or something like this?
The Visiting Service of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you end up getting into that? And then you were there for a while. It's an interesting org, interesting mission. Like how did you phase in? How did you enter and exit into that? That sounds really. That's one of the more different things that you've done.
Yeah,
I thought at
I mean,
least.
it's uh, in retrospect, it all makes sense, but at the time, it was like super chaotic.
Okay.
But a VP that I met at Pfizer went on to be the CIO of Charles River.
Yeah.
And while I was at Pfizer, I met a consulting partner for the British consulting firm. So I followed the Pfizer VP to Charles River, and then the consulting partner to the consulting firm, and then that same VP to the VNSNY,
Okay.
and then I was recruited to
So
Healthfirst.
that actually was that someone you had looked up to and just been following? Was this someone?
You meet along the way,
Yeah, you meet along the
and
way.
I think one of the reasons you and I get along, I think we have the same sentiment here, is like you find people that you respect and you just like follow them around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've always been that kind of like curious about how people gotten into their boxes, and and so when you ask people how they did that, they usually
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
And then sometimes you vibe, and then
Yeah.
sometimes your timing and opportunities and all that stuff overlap. So, like, almost every job I've had has been because of someone I met at the job before. Almost.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Got it. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a relationship-based way of doing things. What I was going to ask too, apart from visitor nursing, was you were in pharma. I always think about, I'll explain, like there's service companies, right? Like companies that do B2B work for companies that do things for people, right? Pharma. Pharma builds, right? You have drugs, you develop them, you manufacture them. That goes to individuals, via healthcare system. But what do you think about the difference between working in companies that support companies, true service companies, versus working in direct industry? Have you ever found differences, or was it something you would, I don't know, maybe you have a comment on this? I think about that concept sometimes.
I mean, there's a lot of differences, but I think there's probably both more categories and maybe less distinction. Like Pfizer makes drugs,
Yeah.
and like getting those drugs to patients is kind of their business, but under the hood, their customers are like wholesalers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
doctors, and so it's a B2B thing, even though it seems like a product company.
Yeah.
Um, like consulting companies do kind of classic B2B sales. Um, I don't think I've ever worked in a B2C. Like I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever at VNSNY, like I did a bunch of like field ride-alongs, so you're actually in people's homes and
Yeah.
stuff. And I was a tech guy, so like I fixed somebody's answering machine,
Oh, they did
I
bring
did
you
all kinds
along?
of stuff. Well, yeah, because I think empathy for the people that you ultimately serve is like super important
Yes.
in all jobs. And there's no better way to feel proud of working at VNSNY than to go on a nursing visit. But even in that business, the patients that VNSNY serves, um, the way they get paid is still, 2/3 the government, 1/3
Yeah.
private insurers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a small private pay business, but it's the vast minority. So, even in healthcare, there's almost no like B2C jobs unless
Yeah.
you're, yeah, even a doctor seeing a patient, right, is still billing an insurance company. So
Yeah.
the commercial model is really different. And most of my career has been in healthcare and life sciences, so it's always kind of been that dynamic.
Yeah, because I mean you are right. The commercial side of things is there's almost no B2C at all. There's emerging like,
Sure.
health tech
GLP-1s, for
startups.
instance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. This
yeah,
is
yeah.
becoming huge. But if you remove that aspect exactly on the actual transactional side of who buys what, it's almost all B2B. But sometimes I feel like service companies are more layers removed than like a Pfizer would be from who they're actually helping.
Mhm.
And that can make it, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily make work in that org because there's so many jobs. They're so big, right? But it's different. It's different.
Yeah, getting too far away from the people that ultimately benefit from your product or service is bad.
Bad. Yeah.
It's always bad.
Yeah.
um, but uh, but at a big place, you have to have like programmatic or systemic ways of capturing customer feedback and like testing out products and stuff. Whereas in a small place, you can just like go talk to them. I
Yeah.
do think like especially in the tech space, you know people can hit you on Twitter, and
Yeah.
I think it's much more common to interact directly with your users in tech because people are more comfortable with different forms of communication that allow that direct communication to happen.
Yeah. Which is definitely, I mean, we can get into it, like the differences between working in just tech versus just life sciences, but that's one of them. Things are much more direct in tech. Like that's a good example if you distill that. There's other ways too, competition, for example. But
Mhm.
yeah, those are good points without a doubt. Um, so I guess I'd ask like, yeah, that covers like a lot of early career VSNY. So you know, as you got involved with, I guess your last startup was Exponential.
Exponential, yeah, that's right.
Exponential.
Yeah.
So I mean, 2 years, really fast moving. How'd you get involved, and then how did it materialize?
Well,
I
you're
guess.
not going to be surprised,
Yeah.
but I met one of the co-founders when I was at Healthfirst,
Okay.
and the those two guys are kind of serial entrepreneurs. Um, they sold a previous business to Accenture, and then and started Expo. I worked with them at their prior startup as a client, actually a couple
Okay.
different places as a client. And same thing, like you meet people you respect, you ask them how they did it, you vibe, and you
Yeah.
stay in
Yeah. Yeah.
touch. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Um, and then when they were ready to start Exponential, like I was still on my like earnout trajectory at Samidavant, the spin out from Roivant, that got sold to Sumitomo Pharma. And so the timing wasn't exactly right, but I was excited about the idea, and we uh, argued about what to call the firm, like all that
Yeah.
cool stuff,
Okay.
all that day one stuff. And then Sumitomo was an early customer, which I think benefited both parties. In fact, Genpact now does work with
Yeah.
Sumitomo.
So wait, let me ask that. So you said it was right people, wrong time.
Mhm.
How'd you either make the timing right, or how did that work out? Because this is like I find this happens to me all the time. You find the right person at the wrong time. The
Mhm.
right person at the wrong time is the wrong person.
Yeah,
You can't.
that's right.
That is what it is. So how'd you make it work?
Um, Again, there's a lot of luck involved, but there's
Yeah.
no magic.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, like uh, when my earnout finished for the Sumitomo acquisition, they were just starting up and it just kind of lined up right. Um, I wish I had joined sooner, but that was my timing. Um, and there's no real magic there.
yeah.
I think it's just um, it has to align, like you say, like the right person at the wrong time is still
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah. So you joined when you could, as
Yeah,
your
that's right.
as you had the ability.
That's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, okay. Yeah, I guess, you know, maybe when did it become apparent with Exponential that, I mean, I guess it's different if you're a founder, like if you're shopping around, how did it materialize into, let's move towards Genpact, or let's make a deal. Let's, as much as you'd like to share there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of factors that go into it. Um, like uh, relationships matter,
Yeah.
like knowing people, well, trajectory of the company, sources of funds. I'm not sure I have anything to say that's particularly insightful here, other than um, like eventually somebody approaches you with the right number,
Yeah.
and you're like, let's do it, and the kind of strategic fit is right, and um, you feel like you have a like a 1 + 1 = 3 opportunity.
Yeah.
um, and there's a bunch of reasons why Genpact was the right fit for Exponential.
Yeah.
And so we made the deal, and we've been super happy with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm keen to talk about AI, of course, in life sciences, different projects like verticals, use cases, how we're using it, how we find it. Uh, Even before that, like as you went from Exponential into Genpact, you mentor startups, right? How long have you been? That was, Exponential days, like before then, even,
Even
right?
before then,
Yeah. How long have you been doing that? Like, why and how? What got you into both, like the concept of mentoring, but then the idea of, let me do this through an accelerator or a program or a platform, things like that.
you know, but this was luck. When I was at Roivant, I I ran the digital innovation program, and it's basically like FDEs, but working across
Yeah.
the tiny biotechs. So Roivant is a biotech incubator. Their little biotechs are that function like just like an incubator, like single companies until they're big enough to spin out. And Roivant's had a bunch of notable successes. Sometimes they sell off those assets. Sometimes they keep them. And so my FDEs would go help a 3, 4, 6 person biotech get off the ground with technology, and and one of those FDEs said, "Hey, I found a cool incubator that might be in the same lane. We were thinking of commercializing a bunch of the things. Like after you work across 10 like single product biotechs,
Yeah.
you start to see a bunch of patterns.
Okay.
They need the same stuff,
Yeah.
study setup and protocols, and like study budgeting, the enrollment projections, like site startup, PI certs, like all the things that you need, to actually get a drug into the clinic. And so we built essentially the same infrastructure 10 times, and we're
Yeah.
thinking
So
about
by then, you know the patterns. You
know
see
the
the
pattern.
pattern.
You know the pattern for
Yeah.
sure. And then it's just like, we were thinking of packaging it up and spinning off a software company. Roivant's had a couple notable software spinouts already. And so one of my FDEs said, "Hey, we should check out this pharma tech accelerator," and it was PharmStars. Shout out to Naomi. And so we were a client at first. We went to the showcase and looked at startups
Roivant.
as Roivant, because we were
Yeah.
thinking about acquisitions and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the pharma customers still go. to PharmStars, and I just like the founder vibe, you know.
Yeah.
So I met as many of the startups as I could,
Yeah.
and started getting interested in like how they're funded, how they go to market, um, pick ICPs, PMF, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and and then I got to know the CEO of PharmStars pretty well, and started talking with her about their offering, but also like how I could get more involved.
Yeah.
And um, and what I really wanted to do, what I really enjoy, is like interacting with founders. You know, I
Okay.
think there's a wonderful scale and stability in working at a big place, but the edge is always elusive. You can never get out to the frontier at a big company.
Yeah.
A bunch of reasons, you know, like
Right.
innovator's dilemma type stuff, and
Yeah. That's a good
like
book.
market overhang, and like there's just a bunch of things that uh, for instance, like I think Google invented the architecture that is powering the AI revolution,
Yeah.
but they're still like obviously behind like Anthropic and OpenAI.
Yes.
Even though like Google I/O is just going on, and they announced some pretty cool stuff and all that. And Demis Hassibis won the Nobel Prize. But um, but I think the primary reason is because I don't know, 90% of their money comes from people typing things into the search box.
You can't cannibalize the existing business model.
And everybody who's using these tools now knows that you don't need the search box if you just ask Claude, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a perfect case of an innovator's dilemma, where it's like, if we're going to disrupt the cash cow in building this new thing. And so these kinds of patterns are just super common at companies. And so like working with startups and interacting with founders, you kind of like, okay, clean sheet of paper.
Yeah, it's a
look
clean
at the
sheet.
world.
You don't have that dilemma.
What's the problem? Let's go
Yeah.
try and attack it and
Yeah.
and build a market offering. Most of the time it doesn't work.
Right.
But the intersection of new technology and like energetic people and kind of old problems, I find invigorating. And so PharmStars is one of the ways that I get to meet a bunch of founders.
So how did it end up working out with those 10 with Roivant? I mean, when you first approached PharmStars, did that materialize? And then of course you got involved with PharmStars as a mentor now, and exactly, you get to work with founders.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did that work out? And then on the PharmStars front, really like have you had a goal with mentoring? I mean, it's clear you like working with founders, and that makes a good sense why.
Yeah, I mean, with the Roivant stuff was super successful. I mean, they've gone on to a lot of corporate success, and the transaction with Sumitomo was good for all parties.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the team and the organization that I was a part of when I was there. I think in PharmStars, the mentoring stuff has been great. I mean, you asked about goals. Like, I don't have an organized response there, other than I think that I've done pretty well in my career by keeping my head up on what's kind of out there and just tacking towards it. And so it's like I have an applied AI role now that wouldn't even have been a thing 3 years ago.
Right.
And people, it's like there's no one's been doing it 10 years, right? And so you kind of just tack in the direction of the thing that you find interesting. And so working with founders gives me like surface area contact with like, how are people thinking about old problems in new ways? I think the like more bureaucratic, long cycle, human unfriendly work in the corporate world is a great place to start applying AI. It's one of the reasons you and I
Yeah.
have been talking, because there's just a lot of work that humans would be very happy to have automated.
I agree. I agree. And I think, okay, well, that kind of brings us on to sort of AI concepts in the industry landscape. I'll just share, what we do is post-market, right? We're working with quality regulatory teams. There's a lot to be said about leaders and laggers. Like, we are privileged in, like, being a startup, right? Startups oftentimes are finding early adopters, right? Those are people who are already forward thinking. They will invest in new ideas. You're investing your time in mentoring, right? I mean, that's the idea of investing your time around new ideas in some way. So it's great to see that. But then you start to the reality of, where industry is as an average and where most people are on adopting tools or AI workflows. These things are further behind maybe than what's leading.
Sure.
Uh, Maybe we
There's
can.
more to lose.
Sorry.
There's more to lose. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Working with like execs at a single product biotech, that product's success or failure is the whole company.
That is everything.
And so it's a great time to propose things that make things cheaper. It's not a great time to propose things that make it more risky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like making a drug is already risky. And when that single program can sink the whole company, it's
Right.
like the stakes are higher.
You're trying to remove variables of risk,
That's
not
right.
add them in.
That's right. That's right. So, and this is why I think like the right place to go in the like pharma AI space is, how do you reduce cycle times? How do you reduce variability? How do you reduce risk? And the things that make headlines are like AI co-scientists, inventing new drugs, or designing new protocols from scratch or new clinical endpoints. And I
Yeah.
think there will be real breakthroughs there, but I don't think that's what most people are going to buy. Like I think the things that most people are going to buy are, how do you help me do this big, slow, painful, risky thing a little bit smaller, faster, less risky. And there's tons and tons of automation opportunities there. Like I think
Yeah.
even the frontier labs, their positions on how they're helping pharma and life sciences, it starts with, we think GPT-5.5 is going to invent a new drug, but when you get down to brass tacks,
Yeah.
it's like collating spreadsheets and accelerating clinical documentation and things that are mostly 100% human reviewed because it's very risky.
Yeah.
But it just takes the cycle time from, this is a clinical writing team. It's going to take 6 weeks to write this. So why don't I write the first draft in 6 hours and then spend a week reviewing it?
Yeah. I mean, that's where the application is obvious. People get too caught up if things are human reviewed or not, when in reality, you have to go and edit and make revisions and changes. But 90% of that first, 10 to 20% that is time intensive, writing a first draft is like totally automatable now.
Labeling regulations are different in every country.
Yeah.
But the idea is, the purpose is the same.
Yeah.
And so, like, helping pharma clients like label their products appropriately, and as
Yeah.
labels change and expand, to make sure that they're relevant in all the geographies they serve. There's just a bunch of jobs in there that's like, there's nobody working at a pharma that's like, yes, I get to translate the Vietnamese label for this product. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're very happy to have that work automated, and so I think you're going to see adoption first on those kinds of tasks.
Yeah. So that's actually another good point around this is like, how do you see the landscape, especially for our vertical of life sciences? Frontier models, the Claudes, the co-pilots of the world, everyone buys it, you use it, versus, startups and AI companies. A good example for like our vertical is there's lots of AI for auditing, but
Yeah.
in reality, all these concepts are fundamentally the same. And, develop, like as a developer, you can basically just understand, okay, you're taking a bunch of documents, you're doing certain things to them, and then you're giving an output.
Yeah.
You're really just, it's a front end wrapper, right?
Yeah.
What's
All
the
on
idea of wrapperizing things? Do you think that, how do you go about both advising people who need solutions, but there's like varying levels of sophistication, right? Like,
Sure.
that's really hard. I think that's like a crux. And for startups too, the moat there is debatable. You know, people
Sure.
will always argue that too.
Yeah, I mean, uh, everybody in the AI product game is wondering when Claude's going to delete them.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
make a new feature.
of
Yeah.
course. But I think there are real opportunities, like massive opportunities in the vertical AI space, and
Okay.
pharma regulatory would be one of those where it's like it's big enough to sustain multiple multi-billion-dollar companies, and it's probably too special for ChatGPT to do with no scaffolding.
Yeah.
And so I think the companies that win here will have a differentiated offering. The intelligence at the heart is still going to be a frontier model, like there's no doubt. But I don't think it's even going to be a post-training thing. I think it's going to come down to like structures, markdowns, agent designs that deliver like markedly better outputs
Yeah.
for the same like token inputs,
Okay.
and you have to be able to relate that all the way down to business impact. So,
Okay.
what you might be referring to is some of your buyers are going to be like, that's just an LLM wrapper. I could build that in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
I don't face this problem, but I even face people trying to sell me things where that's exactly what I say. That's an LLM wrapper. If I had the time, I'd build it in an afternoon. I don't even need this. Delete, goodbye, go away.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so, and for those folks, like putting enough differentiated scaffolding around it so that you actually are able to deliver an output better than somebody could do on a Saturday.
Yeah.
This is the work, and often that involves like integration and like some kind of measurable output,
Yeah.
for unit of input. And on the business side, like you have to be able to show non-technical people that it's better, that it's faster, and that it's
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
In according to metrics that they understand, right? It's not like a
Yeah.
tokens in, tokens out thing. And that's kind of the art. And there's just a bunch of places where, a lot of people don't want to think about the increasing like AI security surface that these tools are creating within their organizations.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of things in that like AI security space, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they're worried about agent hallucination, and so they're willing to pay for somebody to just like solve that.
Yeah. Or monitor it. Exactly.
And so I think we're already seeing like a
Yeah.
lot of movement in this space.
What do you see? You mentioned something I want to ask. You mentioned non-technical people
Sure.
and also communicating value to them. A couple things come to mind. Like, if you look at all these like charts of where people dislike or like AI the most, like healthcare is the vertical people are the most positive still,
Hmm.
but overwhelmingly AI is still like being negatively viewed, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think that's one concept. That's a difficult chasm to communicate to non-technical people if you're pitching an AI solution or just trying to explain the value of something that is based on a model like an AI solution. So I guess yeah, non-technical people, how do you see both like keeping people motivated and high enthusiasm there, like eliminating, translating a Vietnamese label? How do you see the keeping high enthusiasm there and then still also providing tools? Like I think your transition from wrapper-based tools have to have something that's like really a more solid moat
Sure.
to okay, now non-technical people can use something like that in a better manner.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of different ideas in there, but
Yeah.
like, I think, like the moats for LLM wrapper companies of all kinds, a lot of them are going to be the same as always were. It's going to be like network effects
Yeah.
and the like the stickiness of your product. Like, can you generate a track record that makes it better for the next unit than
Yeah.
switching to a new one, right? And I think um, for like non-technical like buyers, I mean, people just want the outcome, right? So
Yeah, it's output
they're not
based.
calling you because they want you to teach them about AI. They're calling you because they actually want to reduce the labeling burden, right?
Yeah.
And so showing them how that happens, I think, is kind of the art. And being an AI founder in 2026, like you have to be able to go back and forth between the like, this guy thinks he could build it on a Saturday, and this guy is afraid of AI but still has the problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
That those are two personas you're always going to have to deal with.
It's exactly. You deal with both personas, and then you have to deal with sort of pitching it differently, protecting the moat in both ways, and then actually evaluating who genuinely needs the problem solved and if they believe you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you were also mentioning like the idea, okay, so going back to it, like what we were really talking about was the idea that, you know, this tech will solve work that people don't want to do. Do you see that in life sciences being different across like pre-market, clinical, post-market? I think what I'm getting at is I agree a lot with your sentiment around there's lots of headline news that AI is making novel drug discovery innovations, but the real value and benefit is going to be in much more laggard, less flashy types of things
Mhm.
that, they just don't make headlines,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us in our like day to day are probably not functioning at 100% of our brain capacity.
You
And
get like 4 hours a day or something
yeah,
like that.
I guess what I mean is if you break your day down into tasks, most of those tasks are relatively rote and routine,
Yeah.
scheduling emails and
Managerial.
manager inbox and coordinating things. And if you automate those things, like you free up a tremendous amount of cognitive space
Yeah.
to do other things. And I think the same is true for companies. So um, in the in all phases of like drug development and commercialization, the overwhelming number of tasks are these tasks. Like
Yeah.
the overwhelming number of things that people do every day, like can be automated without increasing the risk profile of the company, and just free up humans to think bigger thoughts.
I mean, that's an excellent, like for people that want to think bigger things and work on creative things, it's amazing. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And so I think, and this is, in here, like I don't think any of these ideas are particularly novel. It's like, you know, we used to all be farmers, and now we're
Yeah.
now
One in a hundred,
we don't
right.
have to be farmers. And so I think you're going to see that same kind of transition in how humans spend their time, like practical, tactical for a pharma audience, like interacting with regulatory bodies is something that can it's can absolutely be automated, right? So
Yeah.
like um, the regulators want to make sure that the drugs that people get are safe and effective, and they have a rubric. It's not always published, but they have a rubric for evaluating that it's both safe and efficacious. You can see other drugs that have made it through this path and how they've done it. So, I mean, these are patterns that are just like ripe for automation.
Yeah, right.
And
Right.
so, if you know that a particular kind of drug needs to hit a particular kind of endpoint using a particular kind of study, um, and that previous drugs in this class have a particular side effect profile, and made it to approval, you could infer that your drug, if it meets those criteria, would also make it through approval, and you can automate that whole communication process, right?
Yeah.
We're working with a number of clients now on their internal like MLR review, you know, and the purpose of an MLR review at a pharma is specifically to mimic the interaction with regulators, right?
Yeah.
From a medical, legal, and regulatory perspective. And so um, you can already see, like pharma companies have already acknowledged that interacting with regulators is inefficient, And so they're going to create essentially a pseudo regulator that sits in their walls to do this. And I would assert that the existence of that committee tells you that it can be abstracted and automated.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of wraps up. I mean, ultimately, what I was getting at too with the defensibility and the sort of wrapperization is like SaaS apocalypse. But it sounds like you see that, for SaaS startups in 2026, it's managing more approaches, but it's not necessarily different.
I think there are a lot of, I think the current, I'll say, software valuations, I think are probably, we've probably overcorrected.
Yeah,
I think, there's going to be a tremendous number of like core software platforms that exist in 2032 that exist now.
yeah,
But I do think that there's a quadrant of companies or of modules, maybe of companies, where the user base is kind of forced to use them because they're an industry standard or whatever.
yeah,
And because everybody uses these few software platforms, they get a lot of incidental revenue from bolt-ons and add-on
yeah,
modules.
yeah,
And I think those bolt-on and add-on modules are all at risk.
yes, okay.
And so I think I'm not going to name a bunch of the unpopular software
It's
platforms
okay.
that I see in this bullseye, but
I'm
there's a lot of them.
many come to mind, and what I will say, like, even beyond it, yeah, exactly. So you think about this, you almost can't remove those though, because, right, exactly, the entire workforce is familiar with it. So to upend that, first of all, the removal and implementation processes are so painful, right? Like you're talking about, like system of record type companies,
Sure.
like those will always be around to stay. I think, like you said, the way you interact with the system of record, use a Claude or
Really different.
really different. And then,
And your willingness to pay
yeah,
based on the fact that now your interaction surface is an LLM. Like for instance, seat counts don't make any sense.
no more seat counts.
Right.
But then okay, we'll get into I want to get into the token thing because that's how you dollarize value in a way.
Sure.
But exactly, seat counts don't become a thing. I think, like you said, though, if you're using a new interface to interact with your legacy system of record, because those are never going away, workforce knows how to use it. Like you'll always have, at least for a while, you're going to have some laggard effects of that. The bolt-on module concept is interesting. I've never thought about that, but you're right. When you have a new interface of interaction, it's that interface that's going to absorb value, like apps in Claude now, apps in these things. Like, do you see those as sort of new ways of both software and services selling into both the system of record and into a company via now this interface?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess I think there's a huge opportunity right now in the vertical AI space to ship net new products that are value add with the combination of FDEs that address your
Yeah.
particular local need. I mean, this isn't a revolutionary concept,
Right.
but it's just accelerating and everywhere right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I probably had a dozen conversations in the last week that where somebody's like, "Can I just do that in Claude?" And I was like, "Have you ever tried?"
Yeah.
Like, if you just put Claude on top of your enterprise data warehouse, you're not going to get the output that you think.
Right.
Like, there's a bunch of things that you need to do in the agent stack to make that kind of large scale chat with your data use case work.
That's the idea of adding tools to your framework, right?
Yeah. So I think there's a big opportunity in the startup community for lightweight software packages and FDEs that actually make it work. That would,
FDEs.
yes, forward deployed engineers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that is a good concept too. Okay. I see what you mean.
So I think, for instance, in the AI security space, like if you could intercept all LLM calls at a company and check for sensitive data, PHI, I could think of a bunch of data categories, and pass that on to the LLM if it passes, and get responses and monitor that without interfering with the like time to first token,
Yeah.
like companies will buy that.
Yeah.
Like that's a valuable thing right now.
Yeah.
The
Analytics just on prompts are deeply valuable. Exactly.
there's a million of these
Yeah.
little things that I think are like the makings of a standalone company,
Yeah.
and that I don't think Gemini is going to give away free next month. I think it's just too. I think it's too specific. It's too verticalized.
Too specific. And then that's actually a good point. So you're really mentioning forward deployed engineers. This is a good concept for tech. Life sciences, I see it less. Where do you see that? Like you see forward deployed engineers helping integrate these tools at large enterprise companies.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Well, I think consulting that resolves to PowerPoint is over.
Yeah.
I think
No, people won't sit through that, and there's no value left.
I think
Yeah.
I think in the very near future, I mean, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed.
Yeah.
I think in the future, the value of having a consultative resource on staff is going to be that they leave you with some artifact that actually helps accelerate or that fixes the problem that you have, and that's mostly going to be expressed in code.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that most consultants are going to be coders, and that fits right into the forward deployed engineer model.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there are all kinds of emerging patterns here, right? Like there are people that, I've been a clinical researcher my whole life, and now I can write the code that I knew I needed but didn't know how to do because I can use an LLM. And there are more like traditional software engineers that are able to deliver so much more product services and outputs. Both of those profiles I think are valid in the new world, but the idea that a company will pay you to drop 50 PowerPoint slides on them, telling them what their strategic pivot ought to be, like I just don't see that as being a thing.
Yeah.
So I think that means that we're all going to be forward deployed engineers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a way, and both of those neither of those concepts necessarily means creative value, right? Like the idea that these tools create meaningful new ideas is still not there, right? So like that's still valuable, just not through the lens of a PowerPoint anymore.
That's
like
right.
You're saying.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are good points. The tool thing is interesting. So I'll paint you a picture of like an idea around a moat I always think about for software is, there's data moats, which are arguable. And then there's like raw tech tool moats, which is like what we just talked about, like the idea of, having tech tools that deliberately sit in a tool stack for an enterprise company. Where do you see, obviously you see use out of tech tool type of moats. What do you think about data moats?
If you can get access to information that's difficult for other people to acquire, and people find that valuable. So, I was talking with a pharma client yesterday that was like, it would be great to know what other larger pharma companies are doing in this space.
Right.
And if you've done this a few times, I'm sure you could tell us.
Yeah.
And I said, if you agree to share your data, like I'll ask them if they'll share theirs, and then the conversation ends.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
right.
the meme with
That's
the
right.
guy.
That's right. So there are plenty of things that companies would like to know that they can't get access to for whatever reason. And I think that if you're able to generate a large high quality data set in that direction, then it is defensible.
Yeah.
I think the days of scraping doctor names and addresses off the internet and turning that into a company are over.
No.
Like people can do that themselves.
The phone book concept is long gone.
But if you could get pharma companies to share de-identified like proprietary clinical trial outcomes
Yeah.
in a consortium, Like
Yeah.
maybe that would
The
be a thing.
consortium model is one. There's also like signal frameworks where you get like other types of ways of interpreting if something is happening or not, like
Yeah,
different ways. But yeah, I think data moat is part of it. I always think about the chasm between the two, because data moat companies really are always trying to use the most foundational, best tech tools possible.
hmm
Generally, if you're innovating on the front.
yeah. I mean, if you sell data,
Yeah,
then gathering that data and making it useful is a first order priority.
yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And there are plenty of organizations that commercialize health tech data of all kinds for
Yeah.
in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that brings me like my last kind of thought around tech was tokens. You said time to token. Time to value I'm familiar with. Time to token I can
Time to
imagine.
first token is just
Yeah.
it's a measure of usability
Yeah.
of AI systems. Like if you've ever like given Claude an early prompt and
Yeah.
then sat there while it spun,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that that's the indication of
Yeah.
the time
Yeah.
to first token.
I think of time to value. That one's big. Like people think about that a lot.
Sure.
Um, how do you think about, where this whole usage, seat-based pricing is dead. Great. Now what? Usage-based pricing? Like that's difficult, right? Like
It is, yeah.
enterprises need to plan budgets. People have X amount of dollars for Z amount of output. They don't want to spend Y as a variable. It's hard, right? How do you deal with, making tokens work for what, never really had a, this is new. This is novel.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm talking to a lot of founders about this problem right now.
Yeah.
I think one route is platform price that you can on average deliver profitably.
Yeah.
And then if it goes over, you essentially eat it. But most of the time, it doesn't. Like this is how you would have to. It's like Claude Max.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's subsidized up to a point and then throttled. Another way is like a markup on tokens, which is essentially a usage fee, or a an approximation of token use. So for instance, like number of documents produced or
Yeah.
number of calls made, or and I think it remains to be seen. I agree with you that corporate clients don't want a number in their budget that says, well, this is going to be $100 plus or minus $300.
Yeah.
Like that's not
No.
going to work.
And I also wince at the idea of startups trying to create their own like usage-based pricing. I mean, I think it's possible, but I think in the early days it's almost a distraction to try to pitch to people they should buy your arbitrary credits that are wrapper-based or something like this. I don't see much value there.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's situational it's situational, and different kinds of companies I think will find different success in those commercial models. I know that the more directly you can relate the activity of your platform to measurable return for the client, like the more the easier it is to
Yeah.
appropriate value of all kinds.
Yeah.
So like if you're working on like bad debt collection, then it's really easy to see the impact of that work on that number.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so like it's a little bit easier to like pay on a consumption basis, because dollar in
Percent
$62.
fee type.
That's
of
exactly
payment.
right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something like more abstract,
Yeah.
then variable costs are a danger, not an asset.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it's always an interesting, like you said, a lot of founders are thinking about it.
Sure.
The landscape's changing there.
I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are taking a flyer at the platform level, and they're just saying, this is going to be $50K or $100K or $1 million or whatever, and then just seeing where consumption nets out.
Yeah.
Um,
Seeing even what a workforce would adopt, right? Like what is true adoption?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the case for traditional SaaS, right? Like if you're selling seat-based, you sell whatever amount of seats, and some percent of those people actually log in and use the product, right? But it's almost never 100%. there's ways to get around that. Like I think Slack has like, there's different companies that have done ways of just like not charging for seats that are unused, which is fine. But again, the idea that, you know, different ways to show the value there.
Yeah.
That's about most of my questions. I mean, I was gonna ask, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think I should have asked?
No, I don't. I don't know. I don't think so. Um, yeah, it's a. I mean, it's a crazy time.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So it's nice to be in the game, and I think um, we're gonna see a like a tremendous new wave.
yeah.
The I think the only thing, um, like you didn't ask about if I think it's a good time or to be a founder or not, and
Okay. That would
uh,
imply there's bad and good times to be a founder.
I think it's kind of like, you know, uh, widely rumored that um, that it's not a good time to start a company, and I think like exactly the opposite. Like it's a crazy good time, because new capabilities are emerging, and um, it like it allows you to look at old problems with new tools, and even with the the frontier model companies coming up with tremendously enhanced capabilities and investing in service companies and like all that stuff. It's the pie is getting bigger much faster than
Yeah,
the frontier model companies are eating it. So um, like I think it's a great time to find a problem, and solve it with AI. Like it's a
yeah,
great time.
yeah. I agree. I fully agree with that. That's a good concept. Yeah. All right. I mean, that kind of concludes that. I don't have any. The only, I guess, last thing I'd ask, any content, anything you like to, any book that has impacted you, particular read or piece of content, something you look up to, or anything there?
No, when I read books, it's mostly fiction, and it's usually to get unplugged.
Okay.
Um, but uh, the Project Hail Mary, I just finished, which I absolutely loved. Um, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Uh, Definitely, um, another highly recommend for
Good to know.
tech people. Yeah, it was a couple of my latest.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thank you for doing this.
yeah, you got it,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
I appreciate it.
Cool.
All right.
Bye,
Michelle,
internet.
thank you. I don't know how. I wish we had a clock. I didn't look. How long did we yap for?
It was perfect. 58 minutes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty well timed. Hey, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Yeah, we'll get some clips or quotes if you want them, but I'll probably try to find a medium to post this on in its entirety, probably.
Cool.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm sure I said some stupid stuff, but it'll be fine.
No, that was good. I like that. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So